Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After the Dark Show for February 23rd, 2025. We're going to be looking at the 2025 NFL Power Rankings, my initial Power Rankings for next season. I haven't done those on the show yet, so I figured why not. Also going to talk about the Matthew Stafford trade rumors and Mexico Open. We're heading into day 4 of the Mexico Open, and I made a live bet today, posted it on Twitter, so we're going to talk about that and everything else. As you can see, I'm flying solo today, so feel free to drop any questions. It doesn't matter what the topic is. I'll answer it as I always do. So before we begin, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that would be appreciated. I am wearing a Biden Poop This Pants shirt, which you can get on the screen here. It's right there on the right. It's $14, which is comes with the 15% off. Something happened. Like these are like 25% off in December, but they were like $17. I guess Zazzle lowered the price of these, so not sure why, but I mean, hey, it's a great deal. So yeah, you can get most of these shirts for like $13, $14, 15 here and there. The mug is 15% off. The apron's 15% off. Everything is 15% off, and I finally got some clarity on why some of the new shirts and the new mugs weren't showing up. They are live, like they have links to them, but for some reason they're not showing up in the store. So I have to get that taken care of. I'm not sure why, but yeah, I mean, you could buy them if I posted the links, but then there'll be like 8 separate links to this. So I just want to get them all to the store. So anyway, if you guys want to help support the show, just buy any of these shirts. You can go to Amazon, buy my books. The most recent one is Jerks to the College Years, where I made fun of people I saw at Penn State for 6 years. So I had a lot of writing material, and writing this book was a blast. So I think you guys might like it. Also, How the 2020 MVP Was Stolen. This is another book of mine. It's a true story about how Brett Favre tried to sabotage Aaron Rodgers 4 years ago. So you can read about all that. Also, please consider super chats, super stickers. That's the best way to support the show. And some great ones lately. Last week, we had John Sanders and Slew really helping us out. Before that, we had The Boss, Can't Make an Eagle, Alan Stafford. You guys have been so great with your contributions, and you really keep the show going because YouTube ads pay us nothing. And so, yeah, I'm flying solo tonight because Tom, I announced this, I think on Thursday. Tom has family visiting from out of town, so he'll be back next week. So he just, he had to hang out with his family. So we have a couple comments here. Malik says, "Hey, what's up, man? Fan of your channel. You think Dan Campbell has pointy C word, lengthy?" And then he says, "I can massage your beard with my man milk." Well, I don't know. My wife might be jealous of that, so I unfortunately have to turn you down. I mean, Dan Campbell might be well, but I have no idea. I haven't thought about it, but I don't know. Maybe someone knows. Sue says no drama with Keontae George. Yeah, he got there. It was actually pretty tilting early because he got like he comes off the bench and like he got like 13 points in like a flash. Like he was on fire, and then the Jazz moved him to the they put him on the bench. I was like, "What are you doing? He like this guy's on fire. Why would you sit him?" But then he came back in and he got there before halftime, so that was nice. So hopefully Utah can seal the deal here. They're down to 87-85 right now. We have them at plus 7.5. So hopefully they cover because it's been a tight game the entire night. So it would be a shame if they just lost in the fourth quarter. So fingers crossed. He says, "All fun, man. I'm a Bears fan. Miserable life. Nothing better to do." I hear you. I mean, well, look, you have Ben Johnson now, so your team has to be better. It's not going to be as bad. We'll see if Caleb Williams improves. He had some really good moments last year. Your team started 4-2. That win in London against Jacksonville was great. And then again, there were some bad moments. Those 2 late game things against the Lions on Thanksgiving and then the Seahawks on Thursday night. Like, it just looked like Caleb Williams' brain froze, and like Matt Eberflus took the blame for the first one, but Eberflus wasn't there the second time. And I know the Bears had an interim coach who was kind of in over his head. So Ben Johnson should do a lot better. I'm optimistic on the Bears, but at the same time, like I do worry about Caleb Williams. He just held the ball way too long in the pocket. Sometimes he just took so many sacks that were just unnecessary. And I know the offensive line was bad, but he was at fault for some of the sacks. So I think this is stuff that Ben Johnson can fix. Like Caleb Williams is such a great talent, so I'm pretty eager to see what they can do. Like I said, I'm optimistic on the Bears. as far as improving, I should say, like that division is brutal. Like from top to bottom, that division is stacked. I feel like every team could finish above 500 this year, and even if the Bears improve, they go like 9-7 or 9-8, 10-7. Like they could miss the playoffs just because that division is so great. So, like there are some positives and some negatives, but I feel like the Lions might be declining soon. Just because they lost both coordinators, and we'll see what happens. Jared Goff is, he was very shaky in that playoff game, so I don't know if he's going to lose his confidence. The Packers want to have Christian Watson. I do like the Vikings though; they have a ton of cap space. I think Minnesota might take that division. Um, would you be deaf, or I assume you mean deaf, or blind for the rest of your life? Um, I would rather be deaf. I mean, being able to see is I think is much more important than being able to hear. So, um, yeah. So that I feel like that's an easy answer for there. All right, let's get into my power rankings. You guys can please tell me where I'm wrong. I think it's pretty important to know where you're mistaken in this, and like, yeah, I feel like everyone's gonna be wrong. I'm gonna misevaluate some teams, and it's important to know where these teams should be for handicapping purposes. I know we won't have to handicap football games for. I'm not counting the preseason, but like 6.5 months from now, that's when we'll have to start for week 1. But at the same time, I do think it's important to know how good these teams are. So in Group A, which is the elite teams, I have 5 elite teams. The Eagles are number 1. They just won the Super Bowl. They have some free agents, so that's a concern. And they also lost the offensive coordinator. So I don't think it's like automatic that the Eagles are going to repeat as champions. I do think they should be the favorite, hence why they're number 1. And they do have enough room to re-sign some of their players. Brandon Graham's going to be gone, but they have a lot of talent on that defensive line. So, I think they're going to be in the mix to win the Super Bowl again. We'll see. It depends how good Moore's replacement is. And it also depends on whom they resign. Like they have some really important free agents, like Zach Bond. Like he was so important for them last year. So if he leaves, that linebacking core is going to be a lot worse. They do get Nakobe Dean back, but Zach Bond is such a big playmaker. So we'll see. But Eagles right now, number 1. I'll get some flack for this. If you guys can talk me out of this, the Chiefs are number 2. I know they skated by on so many close games last year against bad teams and mediocre teams. But I do think they're going to address their bad offensive line, or at least the tackles. The interior is pretty good. The tackles are really bad. They get Rashee Rice back, which is really important. And as long as they have Mahomes and Andy Reid, they're going to be one of the top teams. I've seen a lot of people be really down on the Chiefs. We've had multiple guests on the show say they don't even think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. And I respect everyone's opinion, but I think that's crazy. I mean, as long as Mahomes and Reid, they're going to be one of the best teams in the NFL. And we saw it even when Andy Reid had Alex Smith, he would always get them to the playoffs. So Mahomes is just too good to eat down. He's going to be there. The Chiefs are going to be one of the final teams remaining. Maybe they don't make the Super Bowl, but I think they'll be at least in the divisional round of the playoffs and probably in the AFC Championship. And if they win the Super Bowl, I don't think anyone should be surprised. Number 3, Redskins. This might be a surprise to some people, but they were 12-5 last year. They got to the NFC Championship. Jane Daniels was amazing, and he's going to have experience now. And maybe he has a sophomore slump, but I think it's more likely that he improves. Kind of like Russell Wilson, who won a Super Bowl in the second year. Carson Wentz, who was the MVP frontrunner before he got hurt in the second year. Joe Burrow got his team to the Super Bowl in the second year. So not every quarterback suffers a sophomore slump like C.J. Stroud. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be more positive than negative, especially given the cap space they have. They have the 3rd most cap space in the NFL. They have $75 million to spend. They could trade for Myles Garrett. They could sign T. Higgins. They could sign Ronnie Stanley. They could sign Brandon Sheriff. Like this team could be loaded next year, and I'm already taking that into account. I don't want to have them 8th right now and move them up to 3rd. I'm just kind of projecting that they're going to do big things. And as far as the odds are concerned, they're my favorite team to win the Super Bowl. They're 23-1 at FanDuel. I just got FanDuel gave me a $250 bonus bet for depositing. I put on the Redskins 23-1. It's like $250 for free to win 5,700. So I'm definitely going to be pulling for them. And I already had a bet on them. So that's how confident I am. And I've said this a few times. As soon as the Redskins trade for a big name, and I'd be shocked if they don't, whether it's it's Garrett or Higgins or someone, that 23-1 is disappearing very quickly. So, I want to get my bets in now before that vanishes and it becomes like 14-1. Lions are number 4. I talked about them briefly when I was talking to Malik. The Lions lost both coordinators. It's a big deal. I said this. I told the story a couple times, so forgive me. When I live right outside of Philly, so the first thing people do, or like when they see me during the off season, is they ask me how the Eagles are going to do. And ahead of the 2023 season, this is right after they lost to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I was like, I don't think they're going to be that good this year. Like, they might make the playoffs, but like they lost both coordinators, and almost everyone I asked, they're like, coordinators, who cares? And we saw it be a huge deal. And then the Eagles got better coordinators this past season, and they won the Super Bowl. The Lions lost both coordinators, so if the replacements aren't nearly as good, then they're going to struggle. And this number 4 might be a little too high. But at the same time, they do get Aiden Hutchinson back. They get Aleem McNeil back. They get all their defenders back from injury. So, like, maybe that negates it, at least defensively. But I do think that Ben Johnson's really going to be missed. Like, he was so key for that team. I still like Dan Campbell, even though we don't know his size. But and they do have a lot of talent. I love their offensive line. So I still think they're an elite team. But there's a chance they slide. So they're number 4. And the Bills are number 5. It could be talked into having them higher. They're over the cap though, so they're going to have to make some moves, and maybe they can make a one signing. The receiver free agent market is not that great, like once you get past T. Higgins, and I don't think the Bills are going to have enough money to get Higgins. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll restructure a lot of people and get him, but I think that it's more likely that they sign a cheaper guy and then they get a receiver in like the second round or third round, maybe with their first round picks. So. I do think the Bills are a good pick for to win the Super Bowl this year. Like, if you think the Chiefs are going to decline, the Bills are the next best team. So I have them at number 5. Those close out the elite teams. Let's get to some comments. 12-pack of that Sunsip soda is $34. Is it really? I mean, I see the ad. Okay, they don't say the price. I guess you looked it up. Man, it must be really. What if it's like the best soda of all time? Is that worth 34 in this economy? Maybe. I don't know. Raspberry lemonade is not my favorite though. I don't like raspberry. Lemonade's good. If it was, I hate these drinks that mix fruits, like pineapple, strawberry, or banana, watermelon. Like, they're all gross to me. Just have like lemonade soda or raspberry, even though I don't like a raspberry soda, or strawberry soda. Like, why mix the two? I never got it. Or it doesn't have to be soda. Like, you get like those Snapple drinks. I think the only one I ever liked was like kiwi strawberry or something. The pink one. That's not bad. It was like the only thing they had in like a store I went to one time, and I was like, I was so thirsty, and I got it. I'm like, it's actually not that bad. But like whenever else I've had one of those drinks, I just didn't like it. So I don't know. I don't want to like rag on a sponsor here, but I don't know. That is expensive though. It says soda with benefits though. As probiotics, vitamins, and minerals. So I don't know if it's tasty and it's good for you. Like, maybe it's worth it. I don't know. But yeah, I'll have to try it. Hopefully, it's not that expensive. Maybe you can get it cheaper elsewhere. Redskins are number 3. Well, what if they get Myles Garrett, T. Higgins, and Ronnie Stanley? Do you think there'll be 3? I don't know. Let's see. Maybe WalterFootball gets kickback for that Sunset stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, they advertise on the site, so I do get paid whenever an ad shows up. So it's not like a direct sponsorship. What happens is I work with this ad company. It's called Media Tradecraft, run by a couple of pretty good guys. So what they do is they go out to these companies like Sunset or bigger companies like Coke or Best Buy, whatever. And they'll say, okay, we can give you X amount of impressions, which is whenever an ad loads. And then we'll get, you'll pay us this certain price. And so it won't just be my site; it'll be every site that Media Tradecraft works with. I don't know how many sites they work with. I do know they work with a few. So like they basically negotiate a price, and I think I get like 60% of it, and they get 40%. So I don't really do anything outside of like post content. Like getting people to go to the site is the main thing here. But they put up all the ads. Like, they're in charge of the ads. Like, I have no control over it. I could tell them, that like, hey, I really hate the Sunsip stuff. Like, please don't advertise it. And they'll be like, okay. But most of the time it just shows up, and I don't kind of think twice about it. So they control all of it. It says $34 for 12 Sunsips is a better deal than 20 for 1. The Redskins winning the Super Bowl. Hey, they're 23-1 now, Cassandra. Get your facts straight. I don't know. Why don't you like the Redskins? I think they are one of the best teams in the NFL. At 23-1, it's insane, I think, especially given the cap space they have. Now, like, if they blow it, if they sign all crap players, then I'll be like, okay, I wasted my money. But at the same time, I think they have a lot of potential. So it kind of feels like buying GameStop at $5. Like, actually, it was like $4. I think it went down to like $3.88 in July of 2020. I was in Vegas then, during the height of COVID. Like, I still traveled. So I remember GameStop was at $3.88, and I already had a lot of shares, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna buy more. And I'm like, I could have even bought more than I did. It just seemed like too good to be true. And like this Redskins 23-1 seems too good to be true. I don't understand the price. Maybe you can tell me why I'm wrong here, but I think that they have the potential to be the best team in the NFL. Let's see. Well, they got me to go to the site. Well, yeah, it worked. It's a nice I'm looking at least. Is WalterFootball a Bet Rivers VIP? No, I'm not a VIP there. They did, I'll say this about Bet Rivers. They did answer me on Twitter very quickly. Like, I said I had an issue betting their props, and they responded very quickly. And so we had some back and forth. So like they at least like were good with their customer service. I'll say that. But I'm like a gold level 2 there, whatever that means. I don't know what that means. Yeah, it's really good looking at. All right, let's get to the Group B teams. So I don't know if Evan's going to yell at me at this, but I had the Ravens in Group B. These are the good but not elite teams. Ravens number 6. So I think there are a couple of things here. Like, look, the Ravens could win the Super Bowl. Like, I think any Group B team can win the Super Bowl. But one thing that's a concern: Derrick Henry's going to be 31, so he probably won't be as good as he was this past year. And I mean, he looked like he was on the decline in 2023 when he shared carries with Tajay Spears. And then he had a great year last year, but like, can he do it again at 33? I have my concerns, especially if Ronnie Stanley leaves. He's a free agent. And so the Ravens may not be able to retain him. I already had concerns with their offensive line. I already had issues with their secondary. These are all things they have to take care of. And like, with an aging team, it might be difficult. So I'm not very high on the Ravens, but they could get there. Number 7, 49ers. I think they could even be higher than this. They have a lot of potential. Christian McCaffrey is coming back from injury. We'll see if he's going to be his old self from 2023. There's a chance that he won't be. By the way, Cherry Cola just appeared. I might get that one. That actually looks good, better than the kiwi, whatever the strawberry, whatever it was. Anyway, the Niners here. They have the 5th or 6th most cap space. I can't remember which one. I think it's the 6th most. So they could do a lot of damage here and get a lot of good players. They're going to get a lot of players back from injury too. Like, they had so many players on the injury report last year, just on IR. I've heard people have voicing concern about the receiving core, but I like what they have there. With I can't remember this guy's name. They're 2 young receivers. I always forget this guy's name. Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings. I think that they're a pretty good 1-2 punch. Not the best, but Juwan Jennings had some big games last year, and Pearsall, for being shot and having some big performances down the stretch, I think that there's a lot of potential there. So I do like the 49ers. 8 of the Rams. So we'll get to them in a bit, or I guess we could talk about it now. Like, Matthew Stafford might be traded. This is like, I know there were like rumors circulating about it, but like, usually when there are rumors about stuff, like, they tend to not come true. Like, the trades that happen come out of nowhere, I feel like. But I guess people are right in this instance because Stafford's agents just got permission to talk to teams, and so it's looking like Stafford's can be dealt. He just turned 37, so obviously one of the older quarterbacks in the NFL, but he still has a lot of I still think he has like 2, maybe 3 more years of high level play. So he could go to a team like the Steelers or like I mean, I guess the Steelers are really the main team that I'm thinking about. The Vikings might be another one if the Vikings have soured on JJ McCarthy. I think that I do think the Steelers are probably the best fit. I know they only have George Pickens, a receiver, but once they get Stafford, they can add a receiver, via the draft, or maybe they get like Luther Burden or something, or in free agency. They have enough cap space. They have 60 million cap space. They can go after T Higgins, and they can kind of like incentivize Higgins to be able to stick it to his former team because they're in the division. So I think the Steelers would have a lot of potential there. If Stafford remains with the Rams, I think they are a Group B team in the top 10. They were the closest team to beating the Eagles in the playoffs last year. So I like, it's kind of weird that they're just giving up to Stafford. But then again, he's a 37-year-old. He's looking for a new contract. It makes sense that the Rams wouldn't want to pay him because they're just going to be stuck with a bad financial situation. So I can see it from both angles. But it's this ranking is really contingent on Stafford, obviously. Number 9, Vikings. I really like the Vikings. I bet them at 40-1 to win the Super Bowl. JJ McCarthy's an unknown, but think about how down people were on the Vikings heading into last year, with Sam Darnold at quarterback. Everyone thought the Vikings were going to be one of the worst teams. Their win total was 6.5, and everyone is pounding the under. And they went 14-3. They had amazing coaching. Kevin O'Connell and the 2 coordinators are still there. Christian Darrisaw is coming back from injury. And yeah, I mean, they have the fifth. I think they have the 5th most cap space in the NFL. So they can get a lot of great talents in the offseason. I think they could be a scary team too, heading forward. So it would surprise me if the Vikings made some amazing moves, that they would be in Group A by the start of the season. Then number 10, the Packers. Christian Watson not being there is a concern, despite the spat that his dad and I got into on Twitter. Kind of a misinformed spat. Like he thought I was like trash talking his son when I was just lamenting a lost bet. And so he just got like so angry at me for no reason. It's like so stupid. Anyway, like Christian Watson being out with torn ACL, it's really gonna hurt the Packers. Like every time Watson's been unavailable, they've struggled offensively because they don't have a deep threat. Whenever he's come back from injury, their offense has been so much better. We saw it down the stretch. They were looking great. They had the amazing Monday night performance against the Saints. Before that, they smacked Seattle around, and the Vikings barely beat Seattle. It looked like the Packers were much better than the Vikings. Then they lost Christian Watson in the second quarter of that Saints game, and they just never were the same offensively since then. And they do have 42 million in cap space, but this free agency receiving market is pretty bad. So if they don't get T Higgins, it's going to be pretty tough for them to find their number 1 receiver, which is what Josh Jacobs was asking for. So number 11, Texans. Their offense was broken at times last season. They only had Nico Collins. Collins was out for a while, and then he came back, and then the other receivers got hurt. Tank Dell suffered this horrible knee injury. I don't think he's going to be playing next year. Really a shame. Stephon Diggs is a free agent, so it's kind of difficult to figure out what they're going to do at receiver. But their defense is still amazing. Their defense held the Chiefs to, I think it was like 212 net yards of offense. I know the Chiefs lost 30 yards when they were kneeling down at the end, but still, they had a great game plan against the Chiefs until they started blitzing at the end. That was stupid. But they were getting a lot of pressure, and that with DeMeco Ryans, that defense is going to be great. It's just the offense that's a concern, but the offense will at least be able to run the ball with Mixon. So I think Texans are the favorites to win the AFC South, and they'll probably lose in the second round again. Chargers number 12. This team has a lot of potential. They have cap space, but last year they didn't beat any good teams. Like they were 8-0 straight up against Group D and Group F teams. They destroy those teams. Like those games weren't close, and it's kind of typical of what we would see from Jim Harbaugh. Like Jim Harbaugh is a great coach. The Chargers were well coached for the first time since Marty Schottenheimer was there, and so it wasn't a surprise that they didn't have any letdowns. But whenever they went up against a good team, they lost. So we'll see. They have a ton of cap space too. As I said, they can make a lot of moves. We'll see if they add a receiver. I feel like Jim Harbaugh is allergic to good receivers, but they could buck that trend. And if they make the right moves, they could be the winner of the AFC West. I think it's still going to be the Chiefs, but if the Chiefs slip up and don't address their offensive line and they suffer some injuries, the Chargers could sneak in and take it. And then the final team in Group B is Seattle. I'm not sure if they should be in Group B or Group C. Kind of not quite sure. They're $13 million over the cap, so they might lose some players. They were 10-1 last year against mediocre or a bad team. So it's kind of like it's not like a very promising stat there, because they were 0-3 against Group B teams. So and they lost by double digits against any Group A team they played. So they could probably be in Group C, but they do have a lot of talent offensively. I like some of the moves they made to address their defense. The defense is still not great, but it's not bad either. So I don't know. I feel like they're at the crossroads here. They could either be Group B or Group C. Depends what they do this offseason. All right, let's look at the okay. So Sue says, never heard of Sunset, never seen it. I've never seen it either, like despite these ads. So it could be gross or it could be great. I cannot say anything about it. Is Kupp a free agent or just on the trade block? He's on the trade block for now. I don't see who trades for him though. Like he's just so on the decline. He barely did anything late last year. I think there's a stretch where like he just didn't get like 30 yards against anyone. So that was, I don't know. I don't know like why, like it's the strangest thing. Like when the rumors surfaced that like he was on the trade block and like he could be dealt, I saw so many people say, oh, he could go here. So this team could trade for him. And I actually put out a tweet saying, here's the list of teams that could trade for Kupp. And then I left the rest blank. I don't see how any team trades for this guy. He's so old. He's overpaid. I think he's just going to be cut eventually. And then some team's going to sign him for, a fairly cheap deal. Just give him a chance. Like he's going to play next year, but I don't think he's going to do anything. Jazz, by the way, fingers crossed, they're up 8 with 4:47 left. So hopefully they hang on. All right, let's skip to Group C. Tampa Bay. This is another team that could be in another group. They could be in Group B, but they lost Liam Cohen. It's a huge deal. Although I thought last year when they lost Dave Canales, I thought that was going to be a huge deal. But Liam Cohen was such a great replacement. Can Lightning strike 3 times in a row? Maybe. If so, I think their coordinator's name is Grizzard. He's another young guy. Who knows? Maybe he could be the long-term answer there, because it seems like every coordinator the Buccaneers have is just gone. And this is why I make the case that your head coach, unless he's a brilliant defensive-minded coach, like a Belichick or a Mike Vrabel or something like that, Mike Tomlin. Like you need it's just better to have an offensive guy, because the offensive guy always leaves if they do well. It's more likely that happens than the defensive guy. And then your quarterbacks is going to have to learn a whole new system. And it didn't really affect Baker Mayfield last year, but it could this year. Like if this new Grizzard guy is not as good as Cohen, I think that's really going to hurt the Buccaneers. So we'll see what happens with them. Let's see how Grizzard does. I don't know. I feel like they could be really good or pretty pedestrian next year. It could go either way. At Steelers number 15, I already touched on them. Like if they get Stafford, they will vault up to maybe Group A. We'll see what else they do in the offseason, but like they haven't had a quarterback since Roethlisberger retired. Kenny Pickett was a disaster. Justin Fields was pretty subpar. Russell Wilson had some great games, and then he just was horrible down the stretch, predictably. So, yeah, they just need a quarterback, and it feels like they have the rest of the roster intact, like except for receiver. They need a receiver 1. They already have a 2 with Pickens, but they need a top guy. But that's it. Like, I mean, their offensive line was better last year. They have Fatuano, their left tackle, coming back from injury, so their line should get an upgrade. Their defense obviously is great. They could do better against the run, but so they still need like another defensive lineman as well. But the rest of the defense, maybe a corner too. The rest of the defense is really good. Tomlin's a great coach. He just doesn't have a quarterback, and it's amazing he's gotten this team to the playoffs the last 2 years with no quarterback. I've heard people, even on the show say like they think it's time to move on from Tomlin. I disagree. I feel like Tomlin is the only thing outside of TJ Watt keeping the Steelers relevant. Like I feel like if Tomlin were replaced by a mediocre coach, this Steelers team would be like 6-11, or maybe 7-10. Like they just keep getting to the playoffs despite their awful quarterbacking. And so if they have Stafford, I suddenly think that they could be in playoff contention. So it dawned on me that I should bet like a low amount on the Steelers to win the Super Bowl just in case they get Stafford. And if they don't, maybe I can cash out, but we'll see. Number 16, the Bengals. Everyone is high on the Bengals. When I posted a graphic with the NFL with the Super Bowl 60 odds, and I asked like, who do you think is going to win? Like, so many people were like Bengals 20-1, and I'm like, well, they have no defense. Their owner doesn't want to spend money. They might lose T. Higgins. I'm not sold on their offensive line. It is better than it was, but it's not quite there. So. Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of Zach Taylor. I know he got his team to the Super Bowl, but I don't know. I don't think he's very good. I think he makes a lot of in-game mistakes. So I think they're a pretty mediocre team. I think they'll have a chance to make the playoffs. I think they'll probably go 8-9, 9-8, or 10-7. And if they get to the playoffs, they'll lose in the second round. I think Burrow will get by his first round opponent, and then he'll lose to an elite team in the second round, just because their defense is so bad. And then 17 Broncos. This is another team that people are high on. I'm not. I think Bo Nix could regress. This is another team that beat no good teams last year at all. Like they beat they were 0-6 straight up against teams above Group C last year. They did not beat a single team that was better than mediocre. And maybe that changes. They have $34 million in cap space, but I think Bo Nix will have some regression this year. He's on the older side, so his upside is not as high. Sean Payton might prevent that from happening, but I don't know. Like Bo Nix did not strike me as someone with a lot of upside entering the NFL. So like I just don't know where his ceiling is. I feel like it's crazy to say. I feel like he almost hit his ceiling already. So I just don't see how he's going to get better. Now, maybe they get better receivers. That could be a thing, but. And their defense is still good. So like I don't hate this team. They're right in the middle of the league. I think like they're very mediocre. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It depends what they do in the offseason. Number 18 Falcons. This team could be a lot higher. I talked about them as being my favorite dark horse to win the Super Bowl because we just don't know what we're going to get out of Michael Penix. Like Penix could be awesome. I know he's another older quarterback, but I think he has way more upside than Bo Nix does. And like just saw it last year, Nix over Cousins or Penix over Cousins was just such a big upgrade. Like Cousins was throwing interceptions left and right. He just wasn't recovered from his torn Achilles. But the Falcons down the stretch, they played really well. They almost beat the Redskins. They took them to overtime in Washington. The downside here is that they're $11 million over the cap, so it doesn't seem like they're going to be able to do much in free agency. Number 19 is Miami. This is always a tough team to rank because Tua Tagovailoa is unreliable. If you told me Tua was going to be on the field for all 17 weeks and Tyreek Hill, same thing, then I'd be like, okay, this team's going to make the playoffs. But we just don't know that. I mean, Tua has gotten hurt almost every year. 2023 was not like I feel like an anomaly almost. I don't expect him to stay healthy for 17 games. The offensive line needs a lot of work too. They had severe issues blocking in the interior, and you can't ever trust Terron Armstead to stay healthy. Like he's always injured. So this offensive line needs a ton of work this offseason. 20's Jacksonville. They hired Liam Cohen. I think that's very optimistic for them. I think Cohen could really turn around Trevor Lawrence's career. Problem here is that their defense is so horrible. They need a lot of help there. But, with Cohen there, I think their offense could be pretty explosive. They have Brian Thomas Jr. I think they're going to get Chris Godwin just because Godwin's a free agent. He might follow Cohen. So that would cure their need for a number 2 receiver. So, like, having Thomas and Godwin there with Lawrence and improved Lawrence with Cohen, I think that's very promising for their offense. But like I said, their defense is just an abomination. So bad. 21 Cardinals. Kyle? It's the same thing as the Dolphins. Like, can Kyler Murray stay healthy a whole season? He did last year. It's the first time though. Like I don't expect it to happen again. I feel like it could be another anomaly. And their defense is awful. So yeah, they have potential. They were hot at some point last year. Remember they slaughtered the Jets. and then they crushed the Bears. Or maybe I'm getting the order of that mixed up, but they look great in the midseason. They beat Miami when Tua was playing. So yeah, I think Arizona is they're fairly mediocre. They have upside if they fix their defense, especially. But like I said, Murray you just can't count on them to stay healthy. 22's the Cowboys. I don't understand this hire of Brian Schottenheimer. He was fired 3 times as an offense coordinator. His offense only finished 10th or higher once in his career when he was calling plays. I know that he was technically the coordinator in 2023 when they had a great offense, but he wasn't calling plays. It was McCarthy. So yeah, and now he's going to be calling plays as the head coach. It's just, I don't know. This is such a stupid situation. I think Jerry Jones has gone senile by hiring this guy as the head coach. 23 Bears. We touched on them already with talking to Malik. I think you can make the case that they could be higher for sure. I want to see what they do in the offseason with their offensive line. So they could be, I can see them being in the teens by the time the season starts. I just really need to see upgrades on their offensive and defensive lines too. And then the final team in Group C, the Colts, 24. Anthony Richardson was such a big disappointment last year. He still has upside. He has a great potential, but he really declined from 2023 to 2024. I know that he didn't play many games in 2023 but what we saw from him in 2023, he actually looked really promising. And then this past season, before the year even started, you heard some rumbles about him having a bad work ethic. And then we just saw him really struggle. He got benched twice. He had a couple of good games, but mostly it's just really terrible play. And I fear it's going to get worse. If I had a bet, if Richardson was going to improve or worsen in 2025, I would put my money on worsen just because, I feel like that the rumors about his work ethic are legit. Okay, so those are the teams in Group C. Jazz. Okay, I haven't looked at the score since. I assume this means they covered. They actually won outright, 124-115. Congrats to those who bet the Jazz with me. That was a nice win. Keontae George way over his point total was 16 or 17 and a half. It's 30. He scored 30 tonight. He went 38-6. What a huge night. Yeah, this is great. So yeah, congrats to those who bet the Jazz. And also Keontae George. So nice. We still have Sunday, but almost a nice close to the week. So hopefully we go 2-0 again tomorrow. Okay, let's. And then Sue says package trade Stafford and Cup, or that's just baseball basketball. Yeah, I think that's definitely a basketball move. It's you give someone a good asset and they have to take on a bad asset for their cap. That it usually doesn't happen in the NFL. I know there was a Brock Osweiler sort of trade where the team that got him actually had to give up assets because his contract was so bad. I feel like the Rams could just cut Cup, and that tends to happen because in the NFL, those salaries aren't guaranteed. In the NBA, they are, and that's why there's so many of those trades in the NBA. I think the NFL does it right. Now, that's from a fan perspective. If I'm a player, I'm pissed off that unlike the NBA, I don't get guaranteed money. But this does keep them motivated. If big offensive linemen or defensive linemen got guaranteed fully guaranteed contracts, I feel like half of them would never try. So I think it's for the best for the league. But like I said, for the players, not great. All right, let's get to Group D. Saints, number 25. They have talent, but they are $54 million over the cap. So good luck, Kellen Moore. I'm surprised Moore took this job, honestly. I don't see how the Saints are going to be just a Super Bowl contender in the next 3-4 years. It's going to be unless they get really lucky in the draft, and they draft a quarterback in the second or third round, and he turns out to be great. I feel like that's their only way out of this. Their car is so mediocre. The roster is pretty top heavy. They have some really good players, but they have no depth. The defense has declined lately. They had a lot of injuries too last year, so they could be better than 5-12, especially Kellen Moore there. The Dennis Allen, their former head coach, is just so bad. So we'll see how Moore does. It's his first time as a head coach, but you can't be worse than Dennis Allen. So this team is going to be competitive when they're healthy, but ultimately 8-9 is. I feel like 8-9 is their ceiling. maybe 9-8, but like they're not going to be better than that, especially like even in their division. Like if they're in a worse division, they'd have so much of a worse record. 26 Jets. So Aaron Rodgers is going to be gone. Tyrod Taylor is the favorite to start. So maybe they're too high. Maybe they should be Group F. But I do like Aaron Glenn. Their defense was or has potential to be really good. And I think, especially with Aaron Glenn there, the coach them up, I think their secondary should improve a lot. Like we saw last year what Aaron Glenn did with Carlton Davis. Sauce Gardner had a decline last year. I feel like Aaron Glenn could fix that. Same thing with DJ Reed. They need a pass rush because they gave up. They traded Bryce Hoff to the Eagles, and they got Hassan Reddick, and he barely played. And then and now he's going to be gone. And also they really miss John Franklin Myers, as Scott Mason pointed out on Tuesday. 26. I don't know, maybe a little too high. With Panthers at 27. Great second half of the year. They did get slaughtered by Dallas, but. There are other games like they could have easily won all three. Like against the Buccaneers the first time, they had a horrible fumble in overtime by Chuba Hubbard. They could have won that game because they would have been in field goal range. Against the Chiefs, they were tied with 2 minutes left. So if they had the ball, they could have won. And then against the Eagles, their number one receiver just dropped the ball shy of the goal line. So. They could have won all three of those games. They could have been 8-9, and I think people might be looking at them a lot differently right now if they were 8-9. At the same time, though, I still don't really trust Bryce Young. I know he played better, but I feel like all the teams they played against closely at the end of the year just weren't really focused against them. So I don't know. I feel like this could be like we could look at them as a value play just because they could have been 8-9, but it might be bad value. I'm not sure. But what I do know is I don't think they're going to be in the top half of the NFL. I think that they could be as high as like the 19th best team or something, or 18th, but they could be really bad too. Like, what if they have a start like they did last year? Like, it could happen unless they like make a lot of great moves this offseason. And then 28 Patriots. So they have the most cap space in the NFL. They have a young quarterback. Drake May had some potential. He has a lot of potential, I should say. He came into the NFL like pretty raw, and like last year, he had some really good moments. Yeah, he looked terrible at times, but you're going to expect that from him. But the Patriots, especially with that like receiving core and offensive line, like the Patriots receiving core is awful and their offensive line is awful. So even though they have a lot of cap space, like they really need to hit on these free agents. And the bad part is for them, the receiving core is not there, or the receiver is not there in free agency unless they get T. Higgins. And they could pay T. Higgins more than anyone else. So maybe they will get him. But they still need a lot of help beyond him. Like even if they get Higgins, like this team's still not going to be good. Like they need a ton of help. So those are the Group D teams. Sue says the Saints' first two games were amazing. Then everyone got hurt. Yeah, exactly. I mean, they were terrific those first two games. Although the Panthers were awful their next game too, and Dallas, they got blown up by Baltimore. So like I felt like it looked better than they really were. But no, they were pretty impressive in their first 2 weeks. But the issue is like what I detailed. Like they have no depth. So if they get injuries, they have no one to replace those guys because of their salary cap situation. So like look, if they luck out next year and everyone stays healthy, like they lose maybe 1 or 2 starters to injury the entire year, like they could win the division. Just the division is so terrible, but still. But if they have like 4 or 5, 6 starters go down, like not even like a crazy amount, but like 4, 5, 6 starters could end them just because they have no depth. So that's the issue with their cap space. All right, let's get to the awful teams. Group F, Raiders number 29. Now they do have Tom Brady, so they could turn things around. We'll see how he does as the owner / talent gatherer. I don't know what his like official title is beyond part owner, but we'll see. He could convince some people to come to Las Vegas. Maybe Stafford. They have the second most cap space in the NFL. Look, they could do a lot this offseason. Like the second most cap space, but they just really have kind of like a bare roster right now. Outside of Max Crosby and Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, Colton Miller. Like they have some good names, but outside of that, it's just so many holes in this team. Number 30 Giants. I feel like they're going to tank for Arch Manning. They have 43 million cap space, but they have so many needs. It's crazy. They have no quarterback. They have no receiving core outside of Neighbors. Their offensive line is terrible outside of Andrew Thomas, and Thomas can't stay healthy. They have a good pass rush, but the secondary sucks. The linebacking core is okay, but could use some help. So yeah, 43 million may not be enough for them. They need a lot of help, and their quarterback situation right now is pretty bleak. 31 Titans. They have the number 1 pick, so we'll see what they do. I feel like they're going to sign Aaron Rodgers, just because Aaron Rodgers has a lot of connections there. He has a home in Nashville. He's friends with the front office people. He was talking to them recently, so there's not that many homes for Aaron Rodgers. So he might want to just stay close to one of his houses. So yeah, I mean, I think if they get Rodgers, they'll be marginally better than 31. They might be like 23, 24, but still, like they're still not going to be a good team. And then you have the Browns, who are easily, I think, the worst team in the NFL. They're 30 million over the cap. They have to trade, or I feel like they need to trade Myles Garrett. Sounds like it's going to happen. Garrett wants out. So as soon as Myles Garrett gets traded, that defense is going to be so much worse. They have nothing at quarterback right now. Deshaun Watson, like you can't even say like, oh, there's a glimmer of hope because maybe Deshaun Watson bounces back to 2024. Deshaun Watson's out for all next year. So the top quarterback on their depth chart right now is Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think that's he and Bailey Zappi are their only quarterbacks because Jameis Winston's also a free agent. So Watson's gonna be out. Winston's free agent. So it's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Bailey Zappi. Like that's so bad. And then Nick Chubb's free agent. Like he may not be the same ever again. They have Jerry Jeudy, but yeah, I don't know what to expect out of him. Jeudy is Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. I guess they're okay. And tight end they have David Njoku, but really that defense is just going to be so much worse without Myles Garrett. Like he really makes everyone better around him. And then with him gone, suddenly those guys who were seeing Garrett getting double teamed every play, suddenly they're going to get a lot of attention. And so their pass rush is going to be so much worse. They could have the worst pressure rate in the NFL next year, which like is not a good thing to pair with an awful offense. So I feel like the Browns are automatically going to be an under bet for me. The win totals usually get released around April or May, usually after the schedule is released. And so when that happens and they don't do anything significant in free agency, which I don't know how they're going to with 30 million over the cap. If Garrett's gone, like this is the under play of the year. It could be low, like it could be 4.5. I still think the under hits. It's kind of like last year with the Patriots. We had their under win total. I was pretty confident that they were going to be the worst team in the NFL, and they weren't. They finished with the Titans, Browns, and Giants finished with worse records at 3-14, but the Patriots win total was 4.5, and it hit because they were 4-13, and that even includes the week one win over the Bengals. Like when that happened, even when that happened, I'm like, this team sucks. Like they're not going to get there, and they didn't. Even though they got a free win at the end of the year with Buffalo sitting their starters, so they really should have been 3-14. Had Buffalo played the starters, they wouldn't have had the chance. It really should have been 3-14. And if the Bengals showed up, would have been 2-15. So I think the Browns are in the same boat. I think they are the best on their play, even though the numbers are not going to be high. All right, so that's for my power rankings. If you guys have any suggestions on where teams should be, if I made a mistake, please let me know. As far as we talked about the Stafford trade stuff, I could pull up where I think Stafford could go. I mentioned the Steelers. I think they and the Raiders I think make the most sense. So we go to this page, and so I listed the Raiders number 1 just because they have the most cap space, and Tom Brady's there. So like he could try to convince Stafford that this is the right place for him. The problem is that the Raiders don't have that much talent. I talked about it just now. I mean, they have Bowers, Jacoby Myers is good, Colton Miller is there, but really like the rest of their offensive line sucks. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Whereas like the Steelers, they have a great defense to support Stafford. They don't have the receiver either, but still, like Fryermuth's pretty good. The offensive line is better than what the Raiders have, and they also have 60 million cap space, so they could also make a lot of good moves. Get it, like if they get Higgins, like that could be a great selling point to Stafford too. So I think those are the two most likely teams. The Giants are possible as well. They have 48 million cap space. Stafford, though, I don't know if he's going to go. Like that team just seems like such an empty husk. Like they have Tyron Tracy looked good last year. They have Neighbors and Andrew Thomas. But he can't stay healthy, as I just said. And it feels like the Giants are tanking. Plus, they're in the NFC. So I feel like if the Rams trade Stafford, it's going to be to an AFC team. Although, the Giants are pretty separated. They're in the NFC East, and pretty far away from the Rams. So if I feel like if Stafford is traded to an NFC team, it's going to be, like an Eastern team where like the Rams won't have to hear about it from the media. If Stafford does has like a hall like an MVP type season, the other New York team I think makes sense too. The Jets, are they going to try to trade for another veteran quarterback after Aaron Rodgers failed? Like maybe not. Like maybe they try to trade up for Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. But again, like this team went 7-10 with Zach Wilson in 2023. Like Stafford should do better, and he at 37 is just much better than Aaron Rodgers at 42, coming off the torn Achilles, or it's 41 last year, coming off the torn Achilles. So yeah, I think Stafford would give him a better chance. Plus, you don't have the whole like diva thing. Like Rodgers, like is it as much as I like him, like he is a distraction. Like Stafford won't be that. So it just makes sense. A couple other teams. The Vikings, if the Vikings don't like McCarthy anymore for whatever reason, it's been a year since they drafted him almost. Teams can sour on like what if they don't like his work ethic or something? I'm not saying he's a bad one. I'm just saying that, like maybe behind the scenes he does, or maybe they don't think he's going to recover from this injury. If they sour on him, Stafford makes so much sense because Kevin O'Connell used to be his old offensive coordinator. So there's no adjustment period. Stafford's going to just be able to transition so easily into that offense. So it really depends on what the Vikings think about McCarthy. And then I mentioned the Titans too. I think they get Rodgers, but the other old quarterback they can also get is Stafford. Just doesn't seem like they like either quarterback coming out of the draft. I don't know that for sure, but that's like the vibe I'm getting, and like from what Charlie wrote. It's still early. Like they could just change their minds, but I don't think they go quarterback number one. Just doesn't seem like it. So, but that could change given depending on what we see from the combine and whatnot, and then and the pro days, of course. As far as the golf is concerned, I made a bet on. Let me pull up the odds. I think that changed. So let's get rid of this hockey nonsense. I bet $25 in USA just because I had a profit boost on Bet Rivers, and it was only for hockey. So I was like, oh, I have to bet this nonsense. So I bet USA. It was like 25% profit boost. It was like $25 max. So I put $25 in USA and it lost. So kind of like pretty frustrated with it. But anyway, the PGA Tour. So let's see here. So Aldrich Poltergeist, as I call him, he's plus 110. He's the favorite. Brian Campbell. I have to admit, I'm not familiar with this guy at all. He came out of nowhere. He's plus 240. We'll look at his stats in a second. I think he might be an amateur. We'll see. Stefan Jaeger is the best golfer in this area. You can make a case for Aaron Rai. Stefan Jaeger is such a great ball striker. His distance is great off the tee. He's someone I misevaluated, and I mentioned this on Wednesday when we had the golf guys on. But when Nuggets pointed out that Jaeger's really bombing the ball this year, I looked at his stats, and I was looking at his like year-round stats. I think that's like his last 20 tournaments. His distance wasn't that impressive, and so I didn't rank him very high in my model. But I looked at like the past, I think it was like 5 or 6 tournaments. Like he's like Nuggets is correct. Like he was really blasting the ball like very, very far. So I made an adjustment after the tournament started. Unfortunately, like we could have gotten him at like 20-1. Yeah, I do think that he has a great chance to win this. He's 4-1 right now. We'll look at the scores in a second, but like I said, he's the best golfer in this top range. So he's my pick to win right now, 4-1. Poltergeist has great distance as well. His iron play is very, very poor. So if that could fall apart for him on this final day. But Poltergeist should be the favorite at plus 110. I'll say that. I don't know. Campbell is look at him. Jaeger is the best golfer. So if you want to bet the best golfer 4-1, I think that's worth a shot. You look at some other guys, Smalley, no, Aaron Rye, not really, Ben Griffin, Toasty. Nikolai Højgaard is one of our picks. He's 200-1 right now, which is pretty crazy, but he's very talented as well. Great distance off the tee, good irons play. I'm kind of disappointed that he and his brother didn't do that well in this tournament. But who knows? Maybe he can make a run. You want to bet him 200-1, go for it. I don't want to do it, but you bet $1 on it. It's not too bad. All right, let's look at the data golf. The scores. So right now, Poltergeist he's 20 under. First place, Brian Campbell 19 under. Then Jaeger 17 under. Smalley 15 under. Then we have Aaron Rye, Ben Griffin 14 under, and then Toasty Celinda 13 under. Here's our guy Nikolai Højgaard 12 under. So I want to look at Brian Campbell and see what he's done. So he's okay. So yeah, that makes sense. So he's off the Korn Ferry Tour. He was on the Korn Ferry Tour in 2024, 2023, 2022. When was he on the PGA Tour? So looks like he was on the PGA Tour back in 2017. So he hasn't been on tour for 8 years. That is why I have not heard of him. He was in the U.S. Open in 2024, so he was in the field. He finished 56th. So far this year, he's played 3 events. He withdrew from the Sony Open. Not sure why. Was he just terrible, or let's see. I don't know if they'll list where he was or what score he had. Like, he could have withdrew for a couple of reasons. He could have either been awful, just like quit, or he could have gotten hurt or something, or sick. So I don't know. But his approach play and accuracy were good there. He was 51st at the American Express, and he missed the cut at the Farmers. So not a great resume. Even last year, though, at the Korn Ferry, he finished second here. So he was promoted. The Korn Ferry Tour is kind of like the minor leagues. So if you do really well there, you get promoted. And if you do poorly on tour, the PGA Tour, then you get demoted to Korn Ferry. So yeah, second, 7th, second, 8th, 3rd, second. So he was doing really well at the Korn Ferry. But like, it's really surprising that he's doing well, because look at these stats. His driving distance is awful. His iron play, his approach is subpar. So he's doing it with putting and accuracy. I don't think that's going to hold up. So Ryan Campbell is not someone I'm going to look to bet at all. It seems like very fluky that he's second. So that could easily go away. I talked about Poltergeist. If you look at his stats, look at this. Like, driving distance is insane. The reason I didn't bet him, and I'm kind of pissed off that I didn't bet him, because I think he was like 55-1. He was 10th in my model, but he got so dinged on this approach play that I just didn't bet him. And I'm thinking for next year's Mexico Open, just to increase the driving distance factor even more, because it seems like all the guys except for Campbell, like all the guys near the top, are all long distance driver, like great long distance driving. So and he's 20. Poltergeist is 20, so maybe he's getting better with his approach play. What did he do? What has he done this year? So like, there's no sign that he was going to do well. Look at this approach play, just awful. If we saw like improvements here, I definitely would have bet him. But I was like, look at this iron play, just terrible. You need good iron play to win here. But I mean, I guess not, because his distance is awesome. So, but he was 15th at the Farmers, so there was a sign that he was going to do well. He made my main DraftKings lineup as like the 6th guy. He was very cheap, and he was 10th in my model. So I was like, yeah, why not? But yeah, I mean, like I said, he should be the favorite. But Jaeger, I mean, look at his stats. Like, he's very well rounded. And then here's what I was talking about. Like, so he's 0.8 in distance, right? But look at what he's done this year. Like, it's just like full blue bars. Like, he's really driving the ball. If you look at 2024, it's much different. Like, it wasn't really at its peak. It was toward the beginning of the year, and he won the Houston Open. He got third at the Mexico Open, so maybe that's a sign that he's going to do well here. But yeah, toward the end of the year, this is what got me. Like, he wasn't driving the ball well, and so his stat number here wasn't that good. But in 2025, he's done better. So this is something I need to do better of, is just like look at recent play of how players do it, like certain attributes that are important to golf courses. And so I feel like I could have identified Jaeger as a good play. I even talked about it on Wednesday. Like I said, I had no exposure to him, and it was terrifying me after Nuggets pointed that out. So I'm pretty pissed off at myself that I didn't bet Jaeger before this tournament, but I did bet him. I posted on Twitter around 5 o'clock, 4:50, 4:30. I said I bet him at plus 880 on FanDuel because it was really, I think it was like plus 700 or something. I can tell you guys in a second, but I got a profit boost, 25%. FanDuel has that. I think that they still do. So if you log into FanDuel, we'll go to promotions. You'll be able to see it. It won't be on my end because I already used it, but it's I think it's 25% off. It's 20% off. It's 25% profit boost for bets maximized at $50. So that's why it was only half a unit. So yeah, let me see what I have here on my end. So yeah, it was 7-1. It was plus 700. I got it boosted to 880. So 50 to win, 440 basically. So I still like it. So like you could get it boosted right now from 400 to 500. 550 to win 250. I think it's worth it. Like I said, he's the best golfer at the top, so he can definitely get there. You should post your top 10 in your model separately. Okay, I'll do that next week. I'll do it. It won't be too difficult. So yeah, starting next week, I'll do it. Aberg won, so why not Jaeger? Yeah, look, that was another frustrating one because Aberg was in my model last week. He was fifth. The only reason I didn't bet him is because he choked. He really choked in 2 tournaments last year. We bet him twice. He was at the top on Sunday. He was, I think, even in the Scottish Open. He was up by like 3 or 4 strokes, and he just choked away on Sunday. And I was like, I don't want to go through this again. But you know what? He came back. He was clutch on 18 last week. I thought he was going to choke. Actually, I didn't post this, but I bet the other guy was McNeely. Maverick McNeely. I bet him at plus 500 on 18 when Aberg was on 18. I just it wasn't a big bet. It was like $25 or something. I think this is just a small bet just in case he chokes again. And of course he didn't. So don't hate me for not posting that play because it was a loser. I wasn't, the only reason I didn't post it because I wasn't like too confident about it. I was like, I'm bored. It's a $25 bet. Just let's make 18 more exciting. So that didn't end up winning. And look, I mean, I said this last week when I was on the Tom, and I said, look, Aberg's only 25. Like he could turn this around. Like he choked a lot last year, but he's young, and so he could really improve. So, credit to him. That was a great putt that he sank. He really his 18 was really good. I mean, Sunday overall, outside of like one instance, was great. So, hats off to him. So maybe we won't be hesitant to bet him going forward. But he wasn't in this tournament anyway. But yeah, that's about it. I don't have much more to say. It's kind of tough to talk for an hour by yourself. So I hope you guys like the show. And as promised the boss, I will post the top 10 of my model next week. So. 555 super chat from Sue. Thank you so much, Sue, for saving us here. Under the category of Ask WalterFootball Anything, according to the Cherepensky family line, who is the greater Russian composer, Rachmaninoff or Tchaikovsky? Honestly, so I'm not familiar with the former guy. I recognize the name, but I can't like tell you anything he's composed. Maybe I'm not cultured, but so I would have to say Tchaikovsky. Did Tchaikovsky do the the Nutcracker? Is that him? I'm not sure. Who wrote the Nutcracker? Let's see. It was Tchaikovsky. Okay, I was correct about that. So I'm not familiar what the former guy wrote. So I have to say Tchaikovsky. I mean, like the Nutcracker is just it's like legendary. So Sanchez says, I'll send you a complete 2,000 word of Sun Sip if you promise to post it on the site. Okay, I'll do it. Yeah, play. Yeah, send it to me. I'll post it for sure. I'm curious about it. I actually want to hear what it's like. If it's good, I'll buy it. But anyway, Slew. So thank you so much, Slew, for the super chat. I wish I could really answer for you because I'm not a classical music savant. I even questioned whether Tchaikovsky wrote the Nutcracker. I had to look it up. But no, I'd have to go with the Nutcracker. It's one of the classics, of course. Rachmaninoff. I don't know what he wrote. So I'll look it up. I'll ask. You know what? I'll ask my mom. She'll know this. Like she's more into that music. So the next time I talk to her, I'll ask. And then the next time I'm on Tuesday, I will tell you, Slew. So assuming I talk to my mom about this, it'll definitely be by next Saturday. I'll have an answer for you. Like I'll be able to tell you what she says. So that would be the better answer because I'm very clueless here. Maybe you should put on a Rachmaninoff piano concerto 2 or 3 in the background while you work. Okay, I will do that. I'll even write that down just as a reminder. I have this from my notes. I have this long notepad file. It is so long. There's so much in this. I have like quick links and stuff. I have like snippets of the site, like copy paste stuff that I save for later. I have notes to what to do later. It's all like, and there's a lot of old stuff in here. They're like, this stuff is so old that I had this file back when I had a flip phone, and when I would text my girlfriend Emily, the one who lived in I don't know if she still lives there, but she used to live in Boulder, Colorado. She's the one that I wrote about in my first book. She I thought she was like my soulmate, but her dad had other ideas, and he hated me, and then we went out for almost a year, but fortunately it ended. But anyway, so my point is this notepad file is so old that I have like my text to her saved because my flip phone wasn't like working properly, and so sometimes it would like delete the text before I got to send it. So what I would do is I would email it. It would email the text to myself, so I would have it, and so I would be able to just copy paste if it got deleted. So it's just I don't know. That's how old this notepad file is. So anyway, that I am putting my notes here. Rachmaninoff concerto 2 or 3. Okay, so I'll have my answer for you on Tuesday then. So, but so anyway, thank you so much for the super chat. Just really appreciate it. No shout out. Thank you so for saving us. And Rachmaninoff Rhapsody on a theme of Paganini, the 3 great works. Okay, let me say that theme Rhapsody, theme of Paganini. Okay, I will listen to those. I do have to do some writing. I'm currently working on the April Fool's mock draft because in March was crazy because we had the combine and then we have free agency. Free agency last couple of weeks, and we had the NCAA tournament, and there's still basketball going on. The NBA is still going on, obviously, and March is pretty tough. So I like to get my stuff down in advance. So I'm like about halfway done the April Fool's mock draft. It's coming out pretty well. Okay, Rachmaninoff. Okay, now I know. As I said, I'm not a classical savant, but maybe I will be after I listen to Rachmaninoff. All right, guys. Well, we'll be back next week. Charlie Campbell will be on one of the days. I don't know which day. Depends what works best for him because he's going to be in Indianapolis talking to people. So we'll have him on. Kenny's gonna be back, so I assume Charlie's not gonna be on Wednesday, unless that's the only day he can do. And so maybe Kenny will be able to do another day. But I assume Kenny will be on Wednesday and Charlie either Tuesday or Thursday. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, the combine is next week, so it's gonna be pretty big. So Charlie hopefully will have some good NFL draft nuggets for us, and we'll do a mock draft too. So it'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, thank you so much, guys, for watching and commenting. Really appreciate it. Thanks especially to Slew for the 555 super chat. Good luck to everyone betting tomorrow, whether it's golf or NBA. Hopefully we go 2-0 in the NBA again tomorrow, and hopefully Stefan Jaeger or maybe even Nikolai Højgaard comes through for us. That'd be nice. So please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. Keep listening to whatever you listen to when you're doing the NBA picks. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Right now I have my video game music. It's either I've been listening to Ori, Ori, and the Blind Forest. My sister got me this video game, and basically you're like a rabbit or a fox or something. You're like this tiny animal, and you have to navigate through a forest, and like it's a huge labyrinth. So I compared it to Metroid before when I was talking about it on Tuesday with Scott. But yeah, you get new abilities and stuff like that. So like you can traverse other areas of the forest. Like once you get like a higher jump or something, you can cross a path and you can go to like another area of the forest. And like there are obviously like enemies, there are like spiders and rhinos and stuff like that. Like all creatures that are bigger than you. And there's one segment where this like I don't know if it's a hawk or an eagle. It is pissed at you because it thinks that you're a threat to its one baby egg remaining, like the other 3 eggs died, and it thinks that you're a threat to it, so it tries to hunt you down. And it feels like a horror movie. It plays this horror movie music. It's awesome. And basically, what you have to do is like you have to hide under like behind trees and stuff like that, as like you escape around this nest. It's like staring at you in the background. It's like looking for you. And if you go in the open, it really stares at you and then just flies, and it's an instant kill. Like there's no like lose life. It just kills you. So you have to like avoid it. This game is a lot of fun. But what really makes this game is the music is so good. I can't say it enough. Like I always said that like Donkey Kong Country, maybe like Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, Kingdom Hearts, like they had the best music. I think Ori and the Blind Forest might have the best music I've ever heard in a video game. So I'll talk about it with Tom on Saturday, next Saturday, I assume. So anyway, guys, thank you again so much for watching and commenting, and thank you so much, Slew, for the 555 super chat. Just really appreciate it. I'll be back on Tuesday, so hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll talk to you on Tuesday.